Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Do You Believe? My name is Katie, your host. How many of you believe that your loved ones can contact you from beyond? And how many of you believe that that's just not possible? I know there are many skeptics out there, and we respect that. But I believe that it can happen. People have what you call soul ties, and I know some of you probably heard of this. But soul ties not only exist between two people who have been intimate, but they also exist between people who share an emotional or spiritual relationship. This evening, I have an experience for you by Amos of New York. It's very interesting the responses he got to his story. I would also like to share a few of those with you guys. So please, I hope you enjoy this evening's episode. In December of 1990, I was living in New York City trying to make it in the music industry. The last time I saw my sister, Julie, was the year before when she visited us. One morning, as I was getting ready for work, I received a phone call no brother ever wants to receive. It was my mother saying these 3 words I will never forget: "Todd, she's gone." And so began my new life. The life where my beautiful sister was no longer on this earth. Julie was one of those rare people that everyone loved. She was a soft, sweet, caring soul that was apparently only meant to walk this earth for 25 years in this incarnation. She cared deeply for me, and she nurtured me almost like a second mom. We were very close. We had both grown up in an abusive home after our parents' divorce. Our teen years were spent in a volatile home, thanks to our stepdad, which is why it wasn't any surprise that even in death, she wanted to take care of me by letting me know she was okay. Now at the time, I didn't know who was calling. It all started when I was alone in my apartment one night, not long after her accident. It was about 12 a.m. when the phone rang. I picked it up and heard what sounded like white noise, like TV static back in the day, when you would turn the channel and it would just be a static screen. Hello? Hello? Nothing. Not thinking much of it, I hung up and went back to bed. When the phone rang again, I looked at the clock. It was 12:15. Same thing. Loud static. Living in New York City at the time, I started thinking maybe it was a bandmate calling from the subway station, but I never did hear anything other than static. Every time I would go back to bed, like clockwork, literally, every 15 minutes on the dot, the phone would ring. 12:30, 12:45, 1 o'clock, 1:15, and so on. At this point, I knew it was my sister. Goosebumps came over me, and knowing only that you can qualify without knowing how it is you know something. You just do. This went on for 15-minute increments until the final call came around 3 a.m. Then it stopped for good. At the time, I didn't know about spirits using the phone and sometimes trying to call and contact loved ones from beyond. Then I came across a book a few years later that described my experience nearly to a T. I'm not sure why she was unable to make her voice audible above the white noise. Perhaps her soul was too new to the other dimension and wasn't able to project enough energy. No matter, in the end, I know it was her trying to call me. She was okay. I've had many contact dreams from her in the following years since she passed. At one point, I attended a psychic reading with a panel of respected psychics in the Northeast region of the U.S. They were providing readings using psychometry. I brought a framed photo of my sister she had given me a year before she passed. I raised my hand and offered the framed photo to a row of psychics. The information they provided me was nothing short of astounding. The feeling of cold of another signifying the person you love is no longer on this earth. Yes, the passing was due to a car accident involving a large truck of some sort. Yes, she was killed instantly on a rainy evening coming home and didn't see the semi-truck that was parked half in the road. It was quick, she showed them. She didn't suffer. She was also with a father figure, they told me. They were holding hands. The father figure had heart trouble of some sort causing his death. This is correct. My father died 6 months after Dilly's car accident, and we believe it was from a broken heart. I always gravitated towards the unknown and the paranormal, but my interest in spirituality and metaphysics, consciousness, and life after death didn't accelerate until after they died. In the years since, I have had a full-blown awakening of my sister, and she gets credit for all of that. While I am still struggling with the human part of myself and far from perfect, all the good within me and my desire to always strive to be a better father, husband, friend, son, and man is due to her influence, both while she was still on earth and even now in the afterlife. I think that experience was truly beautiful, but I thought it would also be interesting to share some of the comments that he got in response to his story. This response is from Miss Ramsey, she calls herself. She says, "Hello, Ramos. A very nice story. I'm so sorry to hear about your losses so quickly and so close together. I wanted to comment to tell you that my mom called me shortly after she passed away. It was on my birthday around 7 p.m. and I was inside alone while my husband and kids were outside. I rarely have the TV on, but at that time I did. And when the phone rang, the caller ID on the TV said CVS Pharmacy. It was January. I sort of assumed that one of my older kids had perhaps come down with a cold or flu or whatever and was at the pharmacy and maybe needed money. They were newly on their own and sometimes they would call. I answered the phone expecting to hear from one of them. I heard white noise. That's what I heard. I said, "Who is this?" wondering which kid. Mom, I heard. I thought they were calling me as if they could not hear me. I asked again, "Who is this?" I just couldn't make out the voice, still thinking it was a kid. The line went dead, and almost immediately, standing there in the middle of the room, I realized it was my mom answering my question, "Who is this?" Mom. It was stunning. So then I looked at the phone caller ID and recalled the CVS pharmacy number. Here's the weirder part. That particular CVS that the number matched was the store very near my parents' mountain home. The number rang to a voicemail that said the store was currently closed. It was weird. It was only 7 p.m. But since then, I've had multiple dreams that have caused me to believe that somehow my parents are at their mountain house, which we sold shortly after she died. The dreams I have are of the house, and we're all going there, just like we did year after year for the holidays. And when I get there, well, they're there. Except almost immediately, in my dream, I realize I must hurry and pack up my kids and get out, because I realize the home is no longer ours, and the new family will be on their way, and I don't want to be discovered. Anyway, I'm a Christian too, but I believe when these things happen, we should go with our intuition and feelings it inspires in us. If it wasn't her, you would have had some disturbing feeling. Also, you sound like a good guy. I always believe we should honor our family who's died, be the best we can, and enjoy our lives as much as possible because they would want us to. Anyway, thank you for sharing. Now guys, that came from Miss Ramsey. In response, I'm going to read the response that Amos wrote to her. He says, "Thank you, Miss Ramsey, for your kind words and sharing your experience as well. Sounds like your mom certainly called you on that day. I would imagine it's just as frustrating for them as it is for us not to hear them as clearly as we would like to. As for the mountain home, I believe once we cross over, we have the capability to create our reality, and often that manifests for many to recreate the home and environment they loved and are familiar with. You may be assessing that home in the other dimension where your mom currently resides. Thank you again for sharing your lovely experience. And now I'm going to read you someone with the different perspective. This is Bravely Kegger, and he says, personally, I do not believe in ghosts. I have a strong Christian faith, and the Bible clearly says the dead know nothing. They have no more partaken in anything under the sun. I believe these calls are purely demonic. The fact that it starts at 12 a.m. and ends at 3 a.m., which is the time when they say the spirit world is closest to ours. Listen, I know it brings you great comfort thinking it's your sister, but I would warn you to be careful. I do not wish to start a debate with you. This purely comes from love and me wishing you the best. I said my piece, so take it how you will. I hope you find the truth you are seeking. So Amos did not respond to this comment, but a moderator came in and quickly said if anybody disagreed, basically don't start anything on this page with negativity or anything like that. So there was no response, but there was another comment. Guys, this is the last comment, and it comes from The Lost Voyage 11, and I really agree with most of everything he says. He says, "Hello Amos. Thank you for sharing your incredible story. I'm so sorry about the loss of your sister. She sounded like an incredible individual with a strong presence, so it's no surprise she was able to reach out to you after she passed. It must be really validating to get such confirmation from your visit with the psychics as well. As you've continued to evolve and grow beyond her death, it continues to prove that love doesn't die. It lives on stronger, long after our physical bodies cease to function as such. It also proves our loved ones continue to stay connected to us, even beyond the veil. So much out there we still have yet to understand. But the mystery of it is part of the fun and journey. One question I did have is, I know you knew it was her calling, but were you able to see where the call came from? If it was a cell phone, or did it display a number? I know the vibration of spirit soul in our realm is much higher than here on earth. That probably explains why you couldn't make out what was being said, why it appeared as white noise. The vibration of sound was too high for our plane of existence. Many have mentioned hearing angels and departed loved ones speaking to them in higher pitches or squeals or rings in the ears. Just a difference in vibration between dimensions. And thanks again for sharing." I think that last comment pretty much summed it up for me. I believe that there is more beyond the physical body, and people can have a connection so strong that, yes, there can be some communication after death. So I took the liberty to look up the verse that the gentleman Klegger recited, and it came from Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 5 through 6, and it states this: "For the living know they will die, but the dead do not know anything, nor have they any longer a reward, for their memory is forgotten. Indeed, their love, their hate, and their zeal have already perished, and they will no longer have a share in all that is done under the sun." Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 5 through 6. So I found on this website, Never Thirsty at neverthirsty.org, how we can take a look at this text. It says, the author of the book of Ecclesiastes is King Solomon. In the first two verses of Ecclesiastes, he tells us that life is empty. Life is like trying to catch the wind in your hands. You can't do that. Life comes and goes. Life is empty, pointless, and unfulfilling. The inheritance you leave behind will be squandered, selfishly consumed, in spite of one's hard work. Throughout the book, the message is life is hollow. The only thing truly rewarding is eating and drinking. We make plans, and our plans may not be achieved. They will not last after we are gone. We encounter evil and oppression in this life, and no one helps. When we come to Ecclesiastes chapter 9, 5, 6, Solomon is making the point that when we die, life is over and you cease to enjoy the old life on planet Earth. Solomon is not focused on the spirit. Instead, he is speaking of the physical body. Eventually, those on planet Earth will forget about us. Just allow enough time to elapse and we will be forgotten. When we die, we will no longer experience the rewards or work, hobbies, or whatever gives us some sort of purpose. After we die, we will not experience love, hate, or a driving passion for anything in our dead physical body. We will not remember anything or share in the things that we once enjoyed. Now, this is King Solomon's version of life. The conclusion is, the message of Ecclesiastes is that life is empty. We are born into the world to die, and the message of these two verses is that we gain nothing in this life. Okay, I'm going to read the conclusion to this article from neverthirsty.org, and it's very important for you to listen to what they have to say. The conclusion is, the message of Ecclesiastes is that life is empty. We are born into the world and die. The message of these two verses is that we gain nothing in this life. The Old Testament, that we cannot take it with us, misses the point that is even worse. Not only can we not take it with us, but that we will soon be forgotten after we die. There is no life in the grave. Our dead bodies will not experience anything. Even the grave is disappointing. Solomon is not speaking of our spirit. He speaks of our spirits later in Ecclesiastes 12:7. His focus here is on the mortal body. Therefore, life is not just over, it is empty, and so is the grave. Not only is life disappointing, but the grave is too. There is no enjoyment in the grave for our dead physical bodies for which we so diligently cared. So again, to me, it's not saying that there is no life after death. He is just saying that there is no more physical enjoyment on this earth after death. And you have to look at who it's coming from. So I found on a website called Ghost Schools and God, and that's at ghostschoolsandgod.co.uk, an article, Ecclesiastes 9, verse 5, and Ghosts, do the dead know nothing? When discussing ghosts, many Christians say the dead know nothing. The very idea is proof texted against the Ecclesiastes 9, verse 5. The living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing. Scriptures such as Luke 16:26-31 and Hebrews 9-27 are also thrown into the conversation. But as the links to the articles on these verses show, there's more than meets the eye when surface skimming the text. Let's read in full, for again, like the Hebrews 9:27 proof texting, what's quoted is not always the whole story. The living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing. They have no more reward, and even the memory of them is lost. Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 5. The writer of Ecclesiastes is not saying here that ghosts don't exist. What is being said is that not only do the dead know nothing, but that they have no more reward, and even their memory is lost. My initial question on just reading the text alone is it really true that they have no more reward? Do the righteous who have died really have no reward in the afterlife? The right response, of course, is that the righteous do have a reward in the afterlife. Evidence can be seen in the New Testament in Luke 16 and the poor man's reward by being in Abraham's bosom. My second question is, okay, so are they really no longer in the memory of their Maker? Well, Romans chapter 14 verse 8 says that we are the Lord's whether we are alive or dead. So God has not forgotten us. Even Jesus says in John chapter 14 verses 1-3 that he has gone ahead to prepare a place for us, and that it would be very remiss of him to forget who he's prepared a place for, wouldn't it? So perhaps we need to think a bit deeper than a mere proof texting a verse from Ecclesiastes to try to dismiss ghosts from a biblical perspective. It's very clear from the book of Ecclesiastes that not everything that's in there is correct or theological. I mean, is everything, including life, really meaningless? If you read Ecclesiastes, you find a man who has amassed great riches, lived life to the fullest, reflected on his futility and his accomplishments, considering that toil is meaningless, and that the same fate of death comes to those who, in life, had everything, and those from the lowest rungs of society, facing his own mortality. This fairly stark review on life is framed within a particular understanding of the afterlife at the time. So, everyone, please let me know what you think about this subject. It is a very touchy subject. Let me know your thoughts. I'm still a believer. Let me know about what you think about the comments, everything that was said. Once again, I appreciate you listening.